So on today's episode of Elder Scrolls 6 Theory Videos, I'm going to be talking about one of my favourite places in Tamriel, the possible setting of Hammerfell. So without any further ado, let's jump straight into it and get this bad boy rolling. So Hammerfell is the most western province in Tamriel and is the third largest, so we're off to a good start because, as we all do know, size matters. Now for a brief history lesson on Hammerfell, and I say brief in quotation marks. Now, during the First Era, Bretons and the Aldmers set up encampments and villages along the coast, but never really went deep into the heart of Hammerfell. The main reason for this was the huge amounts of coastline dominated by the Alkir Desert, which is considered to be the most inhospitable place on Tamriel. Yes, suck it, Black Marsh. The first people to colonise the entirety of Hammerfell were the Dwemer. Yep, before the Red Guards, the Dwemer ruled these lands. Specifically the Rorken clan. They didn't agree with the Chimer and Dwemer alliance and therefore left Morrowind. The Dwemer erected 3 major cities as well as numerous other stuff. Of course, when they all disappeared, no one was there to safeguard the land from the wild. Creatures such as the Falmer soon took over the Dwemer strongholds. Now, I know what you're thinking. Falmer are snow elves, so why are they in Hammerfell? Well, I don't really know. I imagine that a decent amount of them were imported slaves, but it's possible that some of them sneaked over from Skyrim, as it does share borders. The next civilization to conquer was the warrior race known as the Rargada, landed upon Hammerfell shores after their homeland, Yakunda, was decimated. That basically means destroyed. These were a seafaring people who were masters of combat, and therefore managed to tame the wild lands of Hammerfell, as well as its neighbours such as the Bretons and the Imperials. Needless to say, grudges were held. The Rargada, or Red Guards as they became known, created great cities. Some of them were actually on top of the ancient Dwemers. The Red Guards were first quite secretive and socialised little with the rest of Tamriel, until the Orc city of Orsimer was created on Hammerfell land. Not good. An alliance was brokered between the Bretons and the Red Guards, and even the mighty Orcs were no match for this alliance. And that kind of expanded what they were doing with the outside world, so it opened up possibilities. Now, the more the Red Guards came into contact with the rest of Tamriel, created a bit of a divide amongst them. For instance, the Aku tongue, which had always been spoken by the Red Guards, was replaced by the common Tamrielic language, the one that we all know. Obviously, this made trading with other provinces far easier. As well as this, the Rargada gods and deities started resembling that of more prominent Tamriel religion. Some saw this change as a good thing and thought that the change in culture would help the Red Guards evolve and become far more prosperous, particularly the lower classes. These people came to be known as the Forebears. Of course, others saw this as the destruction of their heritage, mainly the rich, who had remained rich largely through custom. They became known as the Crowns. Of course, like it or not, the culture continued to evolve, and for the next 2,000 years, tensions between the two factions rose. Eventually, the High King died, and this led to a war between the Crowns and the Forebears. And by the end of the war, the Crowns were almost assured victory until Tiber Septim got involved. That's right, the Crowns got septimed. The Forebears, being the more open-minded of the factions, signed a pact with Talos, or Tiber Septim, who pledged to win the war using his vast legions. In return, Hammerfell would somewhat fall to the Empire. The Crowns were defeated at the Battle of Stros Mukai. This was a brutal battle between the battle-hardened Red Guards and the unified Legion. Oh, Tiber also used a dragon to burn the Red Guards' fleet to the bottom of the sea. The Imperials then turned on the Forebears, as they wanted absolute dominance over Hammerfell, not an alliance, and had several Imperial governments set up, but this didn't really work out. Within months, the Red Guards overthrew their Imperial conquerors, and eventually a pact was signed that ensured peace with the Empire. Hammerfell wore the Imperial banner, but did so under special circumstances. Fast forward to the Fourth Era. After the Great War, as part of the White Gold Concordat, the peace treaty that ended the Great War, huge amounts of Hammerfell were seceded to the Old Mary Dominion. Needless to say, the Red Guards don't like this, and a bloody war breaks out when the Old Mary attempt to take control. And to stop the Old Mary from blaming the Empire from the resistance of the Red Guards, the Empire officially denounces any claim it has on Hammerfell, officially kicking it out of the Empire. As a final straw, the Red Guards officially denounce the Empire and say they're seceding, and after 5 years of continued war with the Red Guards, the Old Mary Dominion completely withdraws. I know, it seems like a bit of a waste of time on the Old Mary's part. It's partially down to how the Red Guards are incredibly powerful people, and the Old Mary was already not doing so well after the Great War. But also the Red Guards now hate the Empire, and the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Ultimately, the Forebears and the Crowns come to an alliance, which ends the civil war in Hammerfell. Of course, there's still resistance groups who will want revenge against the Falmor and the Empire who they think betrayed them. Now let's talk a little more about Hammerfell as a setting and the Red Guards as a race. Well, first thing I want to make clear is that the Red Guards have their own gods, although they have changed to be more Tamrielic over the years. Of course, for this reason we may see some sort of religious dispute like we did with the Talos worship in Skyrim, particularly between the Crowns and the Forebears, so that could be very interesting. Now, Hammerfell isn't all desert, despite many people's belief. There are large mountains to the north and grassy plains to the southeast. But its biggest feature is, of course, the Alkir Desert. This is a huge and particularly deadly desert. You can expect giant scorpions, giant wasps, snakes, strange Dwemer contraptions, and every other nasty thing that would want to kill you in a desert, really. Personal favourites include lions and giant beetles. Another very cool thing is the odd nomads that wander the desert, staying true to the Ragada lifestyle. It's a bit weird, and some are beggars, yet some are, well, they create quite deadly tribes that terrorise the countryside. So I definitely like to see that. I kind of imagine them being sort of like the Tusken Raiders from Star Wars. Although they're probably not that savage, I just would be quite interested in seeing it. Now, a really interesting feature I would love to have available if the game was set in Hammerfell would be more climate and weather effects. It's something that could have been done in Skyrim with the colder regions, similar to how Frostfall does it. The Alkir Desert is scorching hot and has blistering sandstorms. And I would really like to see these features. For example, you may receive a negative buff whilst in a sandstorm, and your sight should definitely be impaired. As an option, I'd also kind of like to have special clothing that should be worn in the desert to prevent effects such as sunstroke. Not as a standard setting, but similar to the way that Fallout New Vegas had hardcore mode, so it offered you a challenge. It would definitely add something new to the game that I think is kind of missing in some ways. Now, as for cities, there are around 9 in total, so a decent amount. As well as this, we have a lot of Dwemer ruins, which of course would be brilliant in terms of gameplay. As for the Dwemer, I honestly don't really know what to expect, as the Rorken clan left Morrowind before the Heart of Lorcan was discovered, so maybe they'll have some unique weapons and stuff. There's also Nordic ruins towards the borders of Skyrim and Ayleid ruins. In reality, there's a lot going on beneath Hammerfell. Now, in terms of cities, they're very interesting. One of my favourites is the city of Strosmukai, which is on, like, its own little independent island. And it's kind of just a huge city, also called Strosmukai, on the island of Strosmukai. But it's really, really cool, and I don't know if we'd get that straight away in the game, because obviously there's no way to reach that by land, but it would also give the people who made the game an opportunity to add a new mechanic, which I would be majorly interested in, some sort of boat travel, so yeah. Now let's talk about architecture, because that's always fun. In general, there's a decent mix. For example, around the borders, styles such as Nordic or Imperial/Colovian have been fostered. The most interesting overall is the traditional Red Guard style. It has a heavy Eastern theme and it looks really good. It's heavily stylized, and I do have to say I would love seeing what they would do with the larger cities, because it's just a really, really cool looking style. Now let's talk about storyline, because look no further than Hammerfell, my friend. From the lore I've gone through, it's clear that there's some potential, possibly a civil war between the Crowns and Forebears, maybe a second invasion from the Dominion, or even the Empire, or the Great War could kick off again, and you can bet that Hammerfell would see a lot of that action. As well as that, I've always loved the Dwemer, and possibly by expanding the Rorken clan's story, we could have some very interesting Dwemer-themed quests, which is just wonderful. Of course, this is only the lore that we're aware of, so they could come up with something crazy and amazing, but they've definitely got a lot to work with, which is always good. So, it's at that point where I say if I think Elder Scrolls 6 could be set in Hammerfell. Well, it's no surprise that I say yes! In fact, I implore it. There's so much potential here. The possibility to both evolve our immersion in the game accompanied by an enthralling storyline, as well as a chance to play around with new mechanics that haven't been done yet in an Elder Scrolls game, such as immersive environments. So yes, definitely would love a game in Hammerfell. So, that's the end of the episode. I do hope that you enjoyed. Please do like, comment and subscribe. If you have any questions, then also do please pop them in the comments. As well as that, say where you think would make a brilliant Elder Scrolls 6 setting. Thank you for watching. Support's always appreciated, and I'll see you next time.